Welcome to the AAA's online scheduling system training. This webinar will provide an overview of the new scheduling process, including notice of the calendar, how to access the calendar, and direction on how to complete and submit the calendar. Effective June 1st, 2018, the AAA will launch a new online scheduling system for the Minnesota no-fault users that will replace the existing scheduling process. The online scheduling system will operate through AAA Web File and Panelist eCenter. For those of you who are not familiar with these sites, they are online portals designed to serve as a case management tool for parties, representatives, and arbitrators. Parties and representatives will utilize Web File, and arbitrators will utilize Panelist eCenter. Pursuant to the Minnesota Supreme Court's February 28, 2018 order, all case participants will be required to use the new scheduling system. Again, beginning on June 1st, 2018, the AAA will no longer provide a paper-like calendar to schedule hearings. Instead, the AAA will include in our correspondence, notifying the parties of the appointed arbitrator, a notice that the calendar for the particular case is available on AAA Web File and Panelist eCenter. The correspondence will include a link to the login screen, the calendar's due date, and the scheduling period, as well as a set of instructions. The scheduling period is for the duration of time in which a hearing may be scheduled, and therefore, the participants must mark their unavailability on the calendar. The scheduling period is dictated by the date the calendar was made available. Therefore, a calendar that was made available on Monday will have a different scheduling period than a case where the calendar was made available on Tuesday. Once the scheduling period for a case has been established, that scheduling period will not change. Now I will demonstrate. Once the calendar is available, the participant will then be required to log in and access the appropriate online site. If you are an arbitrator and also serve as a representative, you will use the same login credentials to access both sites. If you have not set up an account or cannot recall your credentials, the AAA has several how-to guides on the Minnesota No-Fault website. If you need further assistance, you may contact us at 612-332-6545. Once logged in, you will be directed to the online site landing page. It is from this page that you will access Web File and Panelist eCenter. If you are an arbitrator on the case, you will open Panelist eCenter. If you are a party or representative on a particular case, you will access AAA Web File. For purposes of this training, we will assume the participant is a representative and will open the Web File. Once you click on the appropriate portal, you will be directed to the portal homepage. You will notice 4 different grids on the home page. The pending task grid identifies all of the pending tasks the user has open. In this case, the user has an open strike list to complete and a calendar. Panelist eCenter also has this same grid. An arbitrator can expect to see an open invitation to serve and/or calendars to complete. The grid provides the case number for each pending task, the task name, the task due date, and the names of the parties. The task will appear in the grid and is available to the user until the due date expires. If you fail to complete the calendar by the due date, you will receive an email advising that the task expired and we will assume that all dates and times are available. To access the calendaring task, the user clicks on the associated case number next to the task. Once you click on the link, you will be directed to the case record for that particular case. I would recommend that if you cannot recall the scheduling period for that particular case, you review the AAA correspondence, which notes the scheduling period by navigating to the document grid prior to opening the calendar form. To complete the calendar, the user clicks on the Provide Availability task on the case record. Next, the user will be directed to an instructional screen, which will provide submission guidelines and case-specific scheduling parameters. Please note that the dates noted on this screen represent the month and year. It is not the precise scheduling period. We are working on an enhancement that will identify the exact dates, which we anticipate will roll out over the next few months. If the user is ready to proceed and has read the instructions, the user can click Mark Unavailability. The user will be directed to what is called the Per Case Calendar. It's called the Per Case Calendar because a new calendar is generated for each case. On the top of the calendar, you will note 3 types of color-coded items. The first is Events. This item identifies any currently scheduled no-fault hearings and will list these hearings in purple on the calendar. You can see an example of this on the calendar. If you hover over the entry, it will show basic information about the hearing. Although the system will recognize the existing hearing during the scheduling process, the AAA recommends as a best practice that the user mark unavailable those times as well, if the user would not be ready to hold a hearing for the particular case on that date and time. The reason is that if the hearing already scheduled postpones or settles during the scheduling period, that date and time will become available on the user's calendar, and the present case could be scheduled in place of that hearing. The next item is the Per Case Unavailability. This means that any dates and times you mark as unavailable will appear in orange, which you will see in a few minutes. Last is holidays. Any federal holidays will be listed in green. If you are so inclined, you may change the color coding of any of these items. Below this information are different view options and navigation buttons. The first feature allows the user to view the calendar through a day-by-day view. The user may also view the calendar by a week view. The calendar will default to the month view. There is also a list view, which is more helpful to use after you have marked your unavailability. It will provide a list of the dates and times that you have marked off as unavailable. To the right of the navigation buttons is the month and year that you are currently viewing. To move between the calendars, you may click on the arrows or use the Today button, which will bring you back to today's date. Within the calendar itself, there are detailed instructions on how to mark off your unavailability. To access them, click on the Instruction button. Now to move on to actually working on the calendar. The first step is to make sure you know the scheduling period. As a reminder, the scheduling period tells you when to begin crossing off dates and when to stop. The scheduling period is included in the AAA's correspondence announcing the arbitrator, a copy of which you may access from the case document grid. Once you have identified the scheduling period, you must first determine the best approach for marking off your unavailability. There are two different methods for marking off dates and times. You can use one or the other, or a combination of both. The first method is a day-by-day approach. This method allows the user to mark off their unavailability for each calendar day, one day at a time. The purpose of this feature is to allow for variations from one day or time to the next. To use this method, the user simply clicks on the particular day. A pop-up box will appear. This box will allow the user to mark off any particular time or times that the participant is unavailable. In this case, we are marking off as unavailable 8:30 to 10:30 and 10:30 to 12:30. Once you click Save, you will note the system will capture this on the calendar. The user may also cross off an entire day by selecting All Day. The +2 means that there are 2 additional times marked off that is not viewable. This method would be best used for engagements that are isolated, such as all-day depositions or a morning doctor appointment. The second method is a recurring approach, which allows the user to mark off an extended period of time or to mark recurring unavailability, such as no 8:30s. To use this feature, the user clicks on the Unavailability button located on the top of the calendar. A similar pop-up box will appear. This box allows for more variation, such as if the user is unavailable for a 2-week period, the user would enter those 2 weeks in the from date and to date. Then the user would click All Day. Next, the user would click Recurring box. This will open additional options. In this scenario, the user would click Daily, which would check each weekday as unavailable. Then the user clicks Save. You will note that each time slot for each day during that 2-week period has been marked as unavailable. If the user would like to mark off every 8:30 time slot for the entire scheduling period, the user would enter this entire scheduling period in the from and to date. Then the user would click the 8:30 time slot. Next, the user would check the recurring feature and select the daily option. Last, the user will select Save. You will notice that all 8:30 time slots for the entire scheduling period have been marked as unavailable. The last scenario that I'm going to provide is if a user would like to mark off all 2:30 time slots on a particular day of the week during the entire scheduling period. Again, the user would click the unavailability button, enter the entire scheduling period, the user would check the 2:30 time slot, then the reoccurring box. Next, the user would check the weekly box and select the day of the week the user is unavailable. So in this case, we are marking off every Friday at 2:30 for the entire scheduling period. Last, you're going to want to click Save. You will notice the system has marked off every Friday at 2:30 during the entire scheduling period. For more examples of how to use the recurring feature, please see the quick guide to online scheduling on the AAA's Minnesota No-Fault website. To delete an entry, right-click on the entry and select Delete. The entry will be removed from the calendar. You can also update an entry. To update, click on the day you would like to edit. Next, hit Save. You will notice the date has changed from 8:30 to 2:30. It is important to note that your entries will save on the calendar if you need to close your session and reopen at a different time. However, you must still submit the calendar to be considered for the scheduling of the hearing. Once you have marked all of your unavailability for the entire scheduling period, the final step is to submit your calendar to the AAA. You will submit your calendar by clicking on the Submit Unavailability button at the top of the calendar. You will receive a warning that once you submit the calendar, you will not be able to make any changes. It is important to note the calendar will be final. Neither the participant or the AAA can make any changes to the calendar once you have submitted it. Therefore, if your calendar changes frequently, we recommend that you wait until the calendar due date to submit. If you are ready to submit your calendar, click OK. The calendar will be submitted to the AAA, and the user will receive a list of the dates and times marked as unavailable. The participant will receive an email verification that the calendar has been submitted and a copy of the dates and times marked as unavailable. This list will also appear in the case documents grid. The list is only viewable to the user and the AAA. The list will have a timestamp, and the document will indicate who submitted the list. Last, it's important to note that there is another online calendar on both WebFile and Panelist eCenter called My Calendar. This is a global calendar, and Minnesota No-Fault users may use it to review their hearing schedules or add events and reminders. However, it should never be used to submit unavailability for a Minnesota No-Fault case. The information will not transfer to your per-case availability calendar, and the AAA will not review it before scheduling a hearing. This calendar does have similar functionality and is used for other caseloads within the AAA. If you would like to use this calendar to submit your to review your hearing list, we recommend that you uncheck per case unavailability, and the remaining time entries will be those hearings that you have currently scheduled. To review details, you may hover over any entry, and a pop-up display will provide you with basic information, such as a case caption and start and end times. To view more details, you may navigate to the case record by right-clicking on any entry and selecting View Events. Thank you for attending the AAA's training on the new online scheduling system. If you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call at 612-332-6545 or by email at minnesota-no-fault-info@adr.org. If you need additional resources, you may visit the AAA website at www.adr.org/mn-no-fault. Thank you.